All right, everybody, let's do our second round of make and takes. This is going to feature the Autumn Greetings bundle. This is a gorgeous bundle, and I love, love, love this large image. We're going to make some really great cards with this. So first, take your cardstock out of the packet carefully. Keep all the projects together. We are going to use this large image a couple times. So on the first card, we're going to use it on this panel. So I find the easiest way to do that is with my Stamparatus because it's such a large image. It's easier to stamp it with this than it is to put it in something else. Okay, so I'm going to position my piece of cardstock to kind of just sit right here on my Stamparatus. I like to line it up on the grid paper a little bit. And actually this is going to go off the edge, so we'll use this corner, but I'll stamp everything on here kind of like that. Now I'm going to stamp this in on my panel in Versamark, and then we're going to heat emboss with white. Okay. So let me move this up over here. Also, note the stamp set is under my Stamparatus plate. That really helps if you put either a stamp set or an ink pad under there. That will help line everything up so inking up your image is easier. And here, let me scooch everything over so you can see what I mean a little better. Okay, so there we go. We'll take, and if you have an embossing buddy, go ahead and put that on here. We used to carry them and they discontinued it, which is kind of a bummer. It's not the end of the world, but it helps if you have one. And then I'm going to ink this up with my Versamark ink. Now, let me tell you, just a little tip. I have two Versamarks. I have the good one and the really used one. So this is the one I'm going to use on this stamp. It's been stamped in black StazOn. It's been stamped in, all kinds of colors. And this way I won't defile my beautiful Versamark pad if any of the ink picks up on here. And that's fine. I kind of like to keep one nice and one, once you kind of destroy your first one, then keep the other one nice and then just use, this still works. Like literally that's melted embossing powder on there. It's had its time. But that's just a little tip for you in case you might experience something similar. Okay, so now I'm going to give this a press, and I like to really push on this. Nice. If you put your sleeve on, it rubs over the plate a little easier. You're welcome for that tip too. Okay. Now I'm going to take and run this through my white powder. You could also do gold. That would be pretty with this, but and anything will be quite lovely, I think. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Okay, so let me just get rid of that. All right, now let's heat set this. Ooh. You can heat from behind. I kind of like doing that. You can see what you're doing a little better. And then once the powder's melted, you can just move on to the next area. I know that probably goes against what you've seen and what you've done for a long time, but I actually heard someone who works for a manufacturer of embossing powder say this is the appropriate way to do it. I find it's just easier to show in a video what's happening so that your heat gun is not like totally in the way. I sometimes forget this though because I've been sort of conditioned to do it the other way, right? Okay, so there we go. Next, I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to grab one of my one of my color blend brushes. This is just an oval makeup brush from Amazon. If you don't have this, a sponge will do just fine, so don't worry if you don't have one. And I'm going to take some crushed curry ink. I just squeezed this ink to the lid, but I'm not watercoloring. I'm blending, so I don't know why I did that. Habit, I guess. Okay, so I'm just going to pick up some of this, and what I want to do is just kind of go around the edge of my card and give it a little extra color around the edges. And that just kind of takes this pretty panel and really makes it amazing, I think. Okay, then, okay, I want to make sure that the embossing is still really vibrant, so I'm going to take my just a Kleenex and just wipe off the areas on top of the embossing to make sure they show. And then what you can see is it's darker around the edge and then a little lighter in the center, and it adds to this. Now this card is actually a card that one of the Stampin' Up! Concept artists designed, and I really like the look of it, so that's where it came from. I'm going to take a Pretty Peacock card base and stamp this all together. So I will, stamp this all together. I'm not sure what I'm talking about. Fold it, crease it well with your bone folder. All right, now we need to go into our DSP collection. And in the plaid DSP, I forgot to pull this out. We're going to cut a piece of plaid DSP to use on this card, and it's going to be this beautiful panel right here. So I want to cut this to be, let's see here, 3 by 4 inches. Okay, and you can get 2 out of a sheet, so that's lovely. I always like when I can get more than 1 out of a 6 by 6 sheet. Okay, so there are 3 inches by 4 inches. All right, next up, I'm going to adhere the 2 of these kind of a little offset so that that DSP kind of sticks out behind. Okay, and let's see. Oh, that keeps sticking in ways I don't want. Okay, so a little off kilter like so. And then I'm going to adhere this to my card base. Okay, so there we go. And that's kind of centered. I also want to come back to, remember that scrap piece of crumb cake that we have? We're going to take that and die cut a couple of the dies out of here. So I want the 2 kind of sprigs of wheat. I'm going to die cut both of these. I'll be right back and we'll put our card together. Okay, I've got my 2 sprigs cut out, and we're going to adhere them to our card kind of like this. Right here, and then we're going to put our sentiment over the top. Now for our sentiment, I've cut you a little bit larger piece than what you actually need. We've got this sentiment right out of our stamp set that we can use, and we're going to stamp that in some Pretty Peacock ink to match our card. Of course, you can stamp something else if you would prefer. Now, I've given you a large enough piece that you could stamp something else on here, so you've got a little wiggle room. So if you want, maybe you've got a Happy Thanksgiving stamp or something else, and then you can trim that down a little if you use the sentiment I used. So I'm gonna make that about that big. I'll trim it down to be about 3/4 of an inch. So there, it's centered nicely. Okay, so I'm going to kind of tack these 2 down onto my card with a little adhesive. I'm not doing anything major really to adhere them, just like I said, kind of tacking them down like so. And then I'll add my sentiment over the top, of course, but I also, and we'll pop it up. I also want to embellish this just a bit. So for that, just grabbing a couple edge pieces here. I guess I don't need quite that much. Put that there. I want to add, actually, I'm going to leave these on. We'll put that right there for right now. Okay, you guys, so one of your gifts is this bow maker, and my sweet husband printed these on his 3D printer for you, and we're going to take and create a bow with our linen thread. So to start, you're going to just have, an inch or so, 2 inches hanging off this slot, okay? Then you're gonna wrap it around, and I want two bows, okay? Or two, sorry, I guess I'm getting 3 because I went around again. 3 loops, that's the word, to your bow, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I cut the end off to be about the same length as what I've got off to this side, okay? And then what I'm going to do is bring that, my piece that I was just working with, through to the back. Okay, so push it through that hole and then go up through the center, and then you're going to tie the 2 ends together. Okay, and then I'm just tying a knot right there. Now, because this is linen thread, you might need to actually slide it off to get it nice and tight. All right, but when I do that, I'm going to slide this off, and then I'll just tighten this last little bit. Just a teeny bit is all it needed. And then look at this beautiful 3 loop bow that I created, okay? And you can see the ends are just kind of sticking off. And now what I'm going to do is set that right here, and then I'll put my sentiment right over the top. And because it's popped up over the top, it just is perfect. And I didn't quite do my sentiment or my pop-ups correctly, so I'm going to cut that in half so I can allow for the bow to take up some of that space that I left here. So I'm going to leave a little gap, and then the bow will sit right there. Okay, and then I'm going to put this on. Now, I'll probably make a separate video for you just showing how this bow maker works, but this is a handy little tool, and you'll be able to use this on several of your projects. And it makes, like I said, it makes 3 sizes of bows. Actually, let me grab the 3 so you can see. So I think these are probably the most used sizes of bows that you would need in card making. So we've got the largest size right here, and then the medium size. So the largest size goes all the way around the edge, just like we just did with our bow there. Then the medium size is this one right here, and then it makes this cute little itty bitty bow right here. Doesn't this look like a bow tie that should be like on a penguin or something? So the medium is using these 2, and then the small uses the center 2. Okay, so that is how we put that card together. Okay, I got so excited about the bow I forgot to embellish. So to embellish this card, we are going to take our sequins. This is sequins for everything, and it's true, it really is. And we've got a bunch of sequins in here that you can use. My favorite way to use the sequins is to take some liquid glue and just put some dots in a few places, and then add the sequins to those dots. You just got to make sure you remember where you put the dots so that you don't leave any kind of out in the open, so to speak. So I'll put one more right there. Okay, so I've got 5 dots I need to cover with sequins. And you can pick a variety of different ones in here. I highly recommend using the tacky end of your Take Your Tool pick. Take your pick tool. So I always kind of clean off what's on there, and I already have some sticking to me. Squeeze a little of that tacky stuff out, then I loosen it so it doesn't spew out like a toothpaste. And then I'm just going to pick up some of the sequins that I want to put on here. So there's a pretty one. I can even bring in some of the red. For this, some gold would be pretty. I'll just set that in the glue, and then the glue does a pretty good job of sticking. We'll put an orange one right there. One of those kind of iridescent-y ones. Oops, I got an orange one, so we're going to go with that right there. And there we go. We've added some sequins to that.